My name is Bethany Donker, and I'm going to welcome you today as our RAID representative for Victoria. I'd like to welcome you as the host to today's award ceremony. And before we sort of begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm hosting this from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. This award ceremony today, I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from which you're watching and participating today. And I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing connections to and cultures to the land and waters. So first off, some background to today. I think we're seeing, as we see those poll results coming in, we've got lots of people from Queensland, which is fantastic, and Tassie, and some crops, horticulture, and some a range of different stages. So it's so great to have you all here and see you. Those results, if you can sort of see them, it's great to sort of introduce yourselves as well in the chat. Thanks, Bianca. Okay, yes. So as we get started today, acknowledging traditional custodians, and we'd also like to let you know that this event is being recorded, so it will be available for later viewing. It's also being streamed live to Facebook. So for those of you joining us there, welcome. We are Researchers in Agriculture for International Development, or RAID, founded in 2013 to support early to mid-career researchers in connecting, engaging and supporting those with an interest in agriculture and international development. We're a program of the Crawford Fund and have a strong partnership with the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research, or ACR. If you want to find us out about a bit more about us and our partners after today, our friendly tech team has posted the website links in the chat window, so you can sort of check those out afterwards. And we have some fantastic blogs there, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. Feel free to use the chat function again to introduce yourself today or give a shout out to our award winners. And we'd love to know a little bit more about you and have you join us in celebrating the winners. And similarly on Facebook Live, we hope you introduce yourself there as well. We come to the content of today is the celebration of our inaugural RAID in Retrospect Photo Competition. And we've called this year RAID in Retrospect, this year's competition. Thinking about that, we'd like to recognise Emma Hand for the spark of this idea and its name. For many of us in lockdown or just working from home, 2020 has been a year of a lot of reflection, looking back retrospectively and considering what was and where we've come from. Photos are a great prompt for reflection and a fantastic way of sparking memories and telling stories. I don't know if you've flipped through your camera photos or your album on the phone in the last month or so, but if you're like me, maybe you sort of saw some of the things that you did and you recognized that, oh, there was actually a lot more that happened despite being in lockdown. But also I realized that I didn't take too many photos as well, so you might have been like that as well, and but have been encouraged by seeing the photos that others have shared and got some insight into what their experiences were like in the past year, their stories. And so reflection on stories as we tell photos, particularly research stories, is what brings us here together as we're coming today, and celebrating the global work of RAID members in agricultural research for development as captured through the camera lens. And this was our first year of hosting a photo competition, and we weren't quite sure what to expect, particularly as we know travel was halted this year. So we were really encouraged to receive more than 48 entries from RAID members across 18 organisations and institutions, taken across 14 different countries, and with 130 votes for the People's Choice Award. So we want to thank you, everyone, for sending in these entries, these photos, and giving us a taste of what your years were like. From these fantastic contributions, our judges, Kathy Reid from the Crawford Fund, Patrick Cape from ACR, and Harry Campbell-Ross of our RAID as our RAID representative, had a challenging time coming down to the shortlist using a criteria of visual impact, informational content, and originality. And to share a bit about this criteria and the value of visual media in communicating research findings and impacts, I have the pleasure of introducing our judge, Harry Campbell-Ross. So Harry joined RAID as the Sydney representative, and since 2019, he served as comms coordinator on the RAID Central Committee. Harry is a current research officer at ACR working in the livestock systems program, and he has a keen interest in the crop livestock interface and the smallholder context, and how the effects of climate change are affecting those systems. And in the coming year, he's also set to begin a PhD on adaptive capacity in smallholder farming systems at ANU. So we'll pass over to you, Harry. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Bethany. Yeah, just to reiterate what Bethany said, it was a really tough job for the three of us. And it was quite interesting because we all judged quite differently. We all had quite different criteria, and well, we had the same criteria to go from, but the way we interpreted it was different, which is quite interesting. So I looked at kind of photo composition and a bit of like the story it told, which is similar to the way Kathy Reed judged her photos as well. But my basic rule of thumb with photography is the rule of thirds. So if you look at so that's more in kind of the visual impact criterion. So if you look at a photo, it should be, each third it should be divided into thirds vertically and horizontally, and you use those as kind of like the lines to which you set up your kind of photo composition. So I looked at that and as part of my visual impact, and also the story it told. Kathy looked purely at the story. I have some comments here from Kathy. She said, the main point was that the photo had relevance and told a story about agriculture for development and food security. So she wasn't so focused on the happy snaps that were, along the lines of travel photos or good memories or fun times. She was rather looking at, things that happened in the field or little moments, just capturing a little moment in Ag R4D. She also said that I find that when I'm in the field, for ease of carrying and shooting, usually an iPhone or smartphone is used. And so while all the photos have to take into account framing and lighting and perspective, a suggestion I would make the impact is the impact that a simple edit of the photo bring a sharper focus of one important element, so to cut the edge out of the photos. So what she's saying there is that the photos aren't too busy, and you've just picked one thing to look at in each photograph. So yeah, Bethany, I don't know how you want to do this. I'm happy to give kind of the two that stood out for me, and then the ones that stood out for Patrick, and then we can announce the winners after that. Is that how you'd like to do it?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So Patrick didn't give a 1, 2, 3, 4. He just gave 4 that he really liked. So the first one he liked was Sweet Solutions by Cooper Shooten, which is if you can looking at the screen now, it's the bottom right photograph. He says, as a beekeeper, this picture stood out to me. It's a great hero or profile shot showing the sense of community within the PNG Highlands and how beekeeping can help rural communities. Australia has much technical knowledge to offer beekeepers in our region, with honey production a significant opportunity to improve livelihoods. His second one was the importance of women in agriculture, which is behind the word entrance, with the lady from India carrying something on her head in front of a yellow building. He thought this was the most visually eye-catching photo in the composition. The colors and framing were great. Third was the photograph where agriculture meets aquaculture, which is behind the word for participating RAID in Retrospect. It's a photograph of a beach with a pig and a boat on it. He said that was his favorite landscape shot in the competition, and the different shades of blue are stunning and speak to the very remote locations that smallholder communities conduct fishing operations to survive. And finally, his fourth favorite, which didn't actually make it into the the People's Choice Award, was the photo with Sopiha and the drone. He said, as someone who worked in aviation and drone safety, this photo really caught his eye. While visually there were better shots, I think this photo captures the innovation that is taking place at a rapid rate in farming systems right around the world and gives a glimpse into what we can expect in the years ahead. So that's a little glimpse into how Patrick judged his photos. And I like that one, the drone one in particular, because that's the field where I conducted my research for my honours. So a little personal touch in that one. So for me, I had a top two. I had a number one and number two. And then the rest I didn't provide comments for. My favorite was photo number 25, which I can't actually remember the name of. Do you remember what? It was one where there were 5 men standing in a field planting taro. I can't remember who that was by, Bethany. Anyway, I've only written down the numbers. I said the balance between storytelling and composition in this photo is exemplary. The sight lines that in the photo draw the eye down the line of smiling faces working in the beautiful scenery behind. The rule of thirds as well at play in this photo, making for near perfect composition. This photo left me smiling, and the photographer should be highly commended for this photograph. Yeah, I really, really like that one. I thought it really stood out to me. And then my number two was photo number 7, which I failed to write down the name of. But for this, the explanation of the photo really saved it from being a bit cliche. It's just another photograph of. I think actually this was the one where the children had behind congratulations. I think that was my number 2. The explanation of this photo saves from being cliche. It seems to the reader or the viewer like a very, very believable situation and made me smile. This photographer should be highly commended for this photo. So that's kind of how I thought. I thought about composition first and foremost and storytelling afterwards. And that's sort of, yeah, that's where our minds were. Bethany, do you want to, I'll pass back to Bethany to announce our winners and explain a bit about that.
Thanks, Harry. And I think that's really great in terms of that rule of thirds. And also, yeah, you captured the aspect of our criteria, thinking about the informational and also the visual aspect that really stands out. And it's great to see the insights into sort of the different ways that different judges saw those images. So that's fantastic. Yeah, I'll just point out, yeah, it's a bit hard we had numbers, so we're not in our judging process. But we all the photos will sort of be available to view if you haven't seen them already in the People's Choice voting. So those links will be provided so you can go back and enjoy looking through them again. And yeah, see also, yeah, those titles and those names. Yeah, and so let's see all of that. So it's fantastic. Thanks so much, Harry, for doing that. Yeah, and sharing that. And now we'll, yeah, move on to telling sharing our winners. In terms of, we come to our ceremony where we're giving away 3 award winners. So our People's Choice Award, our National Runner-Up, and our National Grand Prize winner. And to tell you a little bit about what those prizes look like, for our People's Choice Award, voted as the best of our shortlisted images by the public, the prize is a $250 voucher to the camera shop of their choice. The National Runners-Up prize is determined by our judges, receives a $250 voucher also. And finally, our Best in Contest, our grand prize winner, receives a voucher valued at $500 and the bragging rights for this year's inaugural competition as well. So as I present each of our award winners, we're also going to get a chance today to hear a bit about our award winners and the story behind their image, some of that background, and yeah, how they sort of came up with this image and what caused them to snap it at that moment. So please feel free to cheer with the reaction buttons as we announce and congratulate them, and yeah, sort of hear a little bit about their story of this image. So first off, from a very tight competition, with 11 shortlisted photos. The individual receiving the People's Choice Award today is Marie Boudrakos for the importance of women in agriculture. Congratulations, Marie. And if you'd like to come and share a little bit about your story now, we're excited to hear the tale of this photo.
Thanks so much, Bethany, and thanks for awarding me with this. So this photo was taken in India. I was living in Sri Lanka at the time, and I went on a trip to India. So I'll give you a bit of background, I guess, of myself first, and then a bit of and how I'm connected to the image as well. So I'm originally from Melbourne, and my career has mainly been in development in food security and nutrition. So I'm a dietitian by background. I've worked in the Philippines, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Italy, and actually I'm currently sitting in Laos at the moment. So I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to travel, not without hotel quarantine though. So that's where I'm currently in at the moment. So my interest is mainly in linking agriculture for better nutrition outcomes in school-based programs. So mainly in school gardens and through homegrown school feeding. So linking smallholder farmers to school programs for better nutrition outcomes for children. And I'm connected through RAID through the Crawford Fund. So I was a Crawford Fund scholar in 2018, and I'm part of the Victoria Committee at the moment. So I really am interested in capturing the hidden aspects of agriculture, but particularly from a food production, from a food sale point of view, so the consumer side of it. And this image, as I mentioned, I was living in Sri Lanka at the time, and I was working for FAO, and it's in Pondicherry, which is in the southeast area of India in Tamil Nadu. And, you know, the first time I saw this woman, she was actually sitting down and the basket of bananas was next to her. And I thought, how does this woman sell these bananas? Is she carrying around, you know, in the basket, like, you know, wrapped around her hand? And then later, as I was watching, she ended up putting it on her head and walking around. And I thought, how is this? This is so precarious. It's physically straining. There's safety implications. What kind of support does she have? You know, if her harvest, is it her harvest or is it somebody else's, and she's then just responsible for selling? And if that harvest is less one day for whatever reason, what does that mean for her and her family's nutritional status? Does she have a fallback mechanism? What happens if weather comes into play and she's unable to sell, or if weather impacts that harvest? So I started asking all these questions, and then it was at that moment that she walked past the yellow building. And if anybody's been to Pondicherry, it's one of the most beautiful places that I've been to. It's so colourful, and the streets are so lively just through the colours of the buildings. And, you know, I started to think about all the kind of negative implications of this kind of work on this woman and her family. But then I started to realize how actually elegantly beautiful she was, and how she draped so beautifully in that sari, despite the fact that she was engaging in such what I thought was precarious and dangerous work, and difficult in that heat as well. So despite all these challenges, I just needed to take this photo, and she didn't know I was taking the photo. Actually, she was busy chatting with one of the neighbours actually, and I watched her as she walked down the street, and it really made me reflect on you know, do we understand, I guess, the kind of women's role in food supply and the sale of foods, and how does that translate you know, to social security and protection, and therefore her, you know, livelihood and health status, and not only of herself but her children too. So that's a bit about myself and my image, and yeah, thank you again for selecting my image. We're really honoured. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. It's just fantastic hearing that story as well, and all the considerations. I love it, the curiosity that led you to follow this story. Thank you so much. That's great. We also move on to our next awardee, and that is the National Runner-Up Prize. And for this prize, we'd like to congratulate our our national runner-up prize. We'd like to congratulate Jeff Dean for his digging holes to plant taro in a field village trial. I was trying to get that name in my head. What a fantastic name. Thanks, Jeff. Would you like to share a little bit about your photo?
Sure. Yes, so firstly, I'll start off pointing out I graduated from the University of Tasmania. I probably stretched the mid-career category slightly. Worked in the University of Adelaide and then had, well, not then, had two stints overseas over my working period. So that's been in Papua New Guinea. That was 30 years ago, which is a fantastic to look back on that and compare that with a stint in Fiji of got back 5 years ago for spending 3 years in Fiji with family. So very interesting. The Papua New Guinea experience predated email. There really wasn't much contact compared to now. And in the interim, yeah, I've been working with the Department of Agriculture and the University of Tasmania. Yeah, digging this picture, it probably does show you how I'll try and make it good fun, the trials that we have. So this is a research trial planting taro, which is the main staple food crop. The village is on the island of Tabauni in Fiji. It's a wonderful island. It's about a 16-hour ferry ride to get there from Suva. There's plane, but we rarely used that. It was too expensive. So setting up this trial, I can't see the string there, but we have a string and lay it all out in 1 metre by 1 metre intervals. And yes, I did have a go at the spade as well. So this is setting it up, and then we've got planting material that gets laid out and put into those holes. The trial itself was looking at fish meal, and there were some really great results. So rather than using inorganic fertilizers, looking at fish meal in particular. So the guy in the front is the Tarani Koro. He's the village organizer, and he's the one that gets people together, and I would ring him and give a phone call. In terms of tips, I probably took 50 for the day at various stages. So one of them is bound to work out. It wasn't a fancy camera or anything like that. So just take lots of record shots, and I'm sure one will work out. Cool.
Thanks, Jeff. And I really love that, yeah, personalities that sort of shine out, as well as you say, like give memories of people and relationships. That's fantastic. Our last awardee is today. We have our, the entry selected by the judges for our inaugural raid in Retrospect Competition national winner for 2020. And that's Zelalem Moti for his A Farmer's Love for His Crossbred calf. Zelalem, congratulations. Yeah, such a great win. And we'd love to hear a little bit about your story of this image.
Thank you, everyone. And yeah, thanks for the picture. And let me introduce myself first, and then the story of the photo, and then maybe some tips. I think the tips are going to be in 12:45. Maybe we can save that one for later. So my name is Zelalem. I came from Ethiopia. I've been working in Ethiopia for more like 10 years, and I came to Australia for my PhD. I'm in Armidale now, at University of New England. And my passion was always between smallholder farmers and other actors, which include researchers, policymakers, and also NGOs who are trying to support smallholder farmers to improve their livelihood. So my interest is in social science, and I'm currently doing my PhD on innovation systems, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, which we call it innovation platforms, where we bring different stakeholders coming together, including farmers, to interact and also innovate while addressing the smallholder farmers' issues. This picture, especially, I took it when I was collecting my data for my PhD research, and the focus of my PhD is on livestock within the crop livestock mixed farming system. And I'm interested in livestock because farmers are using livestock for many benefits, including security, insurance, and so on, whenever they want to buy fertilizer, they usually sell their livestock, as they don't have a formal money service or financial services. So the farmer really couldn't able to improve their productivity because they usually use local breeds. And this farmer, he really able to get crossbreed with improved bulls, and that was cheap for them. There are other ways that they can crossbreed, like artificial insemination and others. But they found the bull service was effective for smallholders because of the cost and others. So they don't usually get successful with that, but this farmer has been successful, and he really loves his, and also the gender matters. They are looking for a woman, a female cow. So they are looking for a cow to get more milk from the crossbreed than that one. So I usually interview farmers before I go to take a picture, and then learn their stories, and then I take the pictures to really keep for many things. One is for memory, and the other is also it's a great source of evidence for me to tell to policymakers or researchers on how they do and what they should focus on to really address farmers' needs. I think yeah.
Thanks, Leland. That's great to see. It's really fantastic to celebrate that, and yeah, the relationships that you're seeing there as well, and the impacts that you're seeing there as well. So we'll just move to hearing, some of those tips that the judges, the winners kindly gave us a few different tips to follow, and this is a real encouragement for next year, because looking forward to our next year's 2021 competition. Going so fast. We have some great advice from our awardees to take away and to use to think about. So Marie suggests valuing natural light as something that, you don't always need the massive tech if you can just sort of value natural light and sort of seek it out and find it. Jeff has shared that taking pictures whenever the opportunity arises is a great way to go about documenting your research. As you said, Jeff, like lots of photos, taking lots of them, and then you can sort of whittle down. You're going to get some good out of the probability of that. And Zelalem also reminds us that, capturing the story of farmers starts with listening to them, as you said, and seeing through their eyes and asking about their stories. The reminder to ask also before taking photos is a great one, and I think we can definitely take that one away. So that's what we have for today in terms of our award event. The RAID in Retrospect competition is going to return again next year. So start taking photos now. If you'd like some more information on the competition, please get in contact with us. Also, if you're watching this at a later date or would like to view all our winning entries, or please head to the RAID members platform where you can read some of the great photography tips as shared by our winners here, and also some blogs that we have. If you see the combination of those blogs and their fantastic photos there, it's a great way to get your head around those more tips and where to go from there. And this is a great way to be able to communicate with other RAID members and also hear these stories. So we're keen to keep the discussion going about how we can engage people with ag research through photos. And if you're on a member, I should sort of just say that, you can sign up for free. So once again, thanks for all our winners for your fantastic photos and tips, to our judges, Kathy Reed, Patrick Cape and Harry Campbell-Ross, for your time and your energies in judging the entries. And finally, to the participants today in the competition, and whether you've submitted a photo, voted in for your favorite image, or you've just attended today and you're supporting the entrants in that way, we hope you've enjoyed viewing the photos and reflecting on how we can communicate visually. So this event has been recorded and will be on the website as well as live streaming on Facebook, so you can always check it out again and hear the stories again. Stay safe, everyone. And have a fantastic weekend.